Hey guys, this is Tim, and today I want to talk about running games for the first time. Now, when I think about this, I think about going to my convention, and I try to run something every year that's new, something that's a little bit fresh, something that maybe I've never played before. And every year I kind of think to myself, why am I doing this? Because first off, you have to learn a new system, and if it's a system that's unlike any other system you ever ran before, it can be kind of a challenge. So sometimes I'll read through the rules like two or three times, make sure I take a lot of notes, use like 3x5 cards, or get out the highlighter, and I really just try to just jam it into my head. Just like, this is the system, this is how it works. And I usually try to read up on the examples in the book. Some books have more examples than others, but a lot of times it'll go well. It'll people will enjoy it the way I run it. However, sometimes there are times where it doesn't go so well, where I'll misunderstand something that was in the rules. Maybe it wasn't very clear, and when I get to the table, maybe someone that's played it before will go, "That's not how that works. You should do it this way." So sometimes I get a little bit of egg on my face, but I don't know. I kind of look at it as a sort of a challenge every year. So let's say that you've played a game, you've played it once, and maybe a friend was running it for you, and you really enjoyed it. You thought it was a great game. You're like, wow, I'm gonna go out and buy these rules, and hopefully one day I'll sit down and run a one shot or a campaign of this. But the actual running of that game for the first time, at least for me, can be a little stressful. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna run these rules for these people, and if it's at a convention, it's usually for people you don't know. So there's a little bit less, I don't know, less forgiveness, or I don't know. I always feel a little bit more, I don't know, under pressure. I think a little bit. But let's say you played a game once and you're gonna run it for the first time, and at least you have some experience with it. You saw how the other GM ran it, and hopefully they ran it that was in a way that was at least as close to what the rules are. So when you read through that book later, you're like, okay, I remember that example. I remember when we did this in that game. I remember that. Okay, ooh, he didn't do any of this stuff, so I guess he either ignored that or did something different. But it'll have some sort of framework in your head, and it's a little bit easier to run a game, I think, if you played it at least once. And then there's the other thing where, you go online, maybe you're just surfing some RPG forum, or maybe you hear a friend talk about a game that they really like, and it's like the same genre, or something that you enjoy, so maybe you just pick it up just for that. An example of that is Atomic Highway I picked up. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it's about post-apocalyptic sort of, you know, uh, there's cars and everything, kind of like the Road Warrior, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, that kind of stuff. And I've always liked those movies, so I really wanted to pick that up. Uh, so if I was ever going to run Atomic Highway, I've never played a game of it. I've never seen it in action. And the only time I've ever heard it talked about is actually on YouTube forums and RPGNet, things like that. So what do you do? Like I said, like what do you do when you've never played a game and you want to run it because it's an interesting game? Like probably next year at my gas convention, GasCon, I think I might try to run Atomic Highway just because I think it'll get some players. I think it's interesting, and it has a nice catchy title. Something different to put on the schedule to maybe get some people to come. So what do you do? Uh, Usually I go online first, see if people have any comments on it, see if there are reviews of it, see what they think of the game. Maybe people will find that there's certain rules that are kind of weak, and sometimes there'll be suggestions for putting rules from other systems into that weak spot to make it better. Uh, Sometimes there's house rules for things. There's also the errata that you can look for, see if like maybe when they put the book out the first time, their examples didn't work out so well, or maybe they could have had more explanation on things. So I'll do a little bit of research for a game, just to see what's out there, see what anybody has to think of it. If there's any quick fixes or problems that have come up in the game, and then I'll read the book. Usually the first time through, I won't take notes. I'm just gonna read the book and see what jumps out at me, what sticks. Basically just throwing something against the wall and whatever sticks, sticks. You just kind of get a feel for the book. And then the second time through, I'll take a lot of notes, and if I'm going to use the 3x5 cards, or if I'm going to just highlight the crap out of the book, which I know disturbs some people, but I tend to highlight books if I've never played them or never ran them before, just so that when I'm at the table and I get in that panic mode, like someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer to it, I have some sort of means of finding that answer quickly. I know there's indexes. Sometimes that doesn't always help. A lot of times I've looked at an index and I go to that page and I just see a wall of text. It's like, I'm not going to read this entire page while everyone at the table is staring at me looking for an answer for how this is supposed to be ran. For instance, Dogs in the Vineyard, I did play that once, and then I ran a game of it. And I highlighted the crap out of that book. Like, whatever I thought needed to jump out of that page, I highlighted it. And it really helped me when I was running the game. I was able to flip through, and I knew what sections to read off to kind of bring out the setting. But, I don't know. Maybe I think too much about running a one-shot. I just always want to know. I mean, if you're ever going to run a game, it's good to have a good solid foundation, a good sort of understanding of the rules. And I always try to have that as much as possible. Like I said, it is ideal if you've played several games of the game you're going to run, because then you have some experience and you kind of, I don't know, sometimes it's better to see it in action instead of just reading it, because sometimes reading it, you miss how it all comes together. Sometimes the connections are kind of vaguely there, but you're not really sure, and you need some of that hands-on playing to see what actually will happen. But that's usually what I do. Sometimes it's a little bit more stressful, like I said, because you're not as comfortable with the rules as you think you might ought to be. You're worried that the players are going to look at your session as the end-all to be-all for that game. Well, Tim ran this game, and he didn't run it that way, So you want to try to be a good example for that system, I think. And I don't know. Another reason you might want to run a game that you've never played is that you think it's a cool game. You've read it, and you're like, you know what? This is a really awesome game that I've never heard anybody talk about before. I think it deserves some notoriety, and if you run it for your gaming group or at a convention, it has that, it'll go up on the schedule, and then people will see it. So it's kind of a way, I think, of giving back to the RPG authors that you like, the systems that you like. For instance, I ran a few Labyrinth Lord games at GasCon last year, and that was the first year it had ever been there. The first one filled up quickly, so I ran another one. And a lot of people got to experience that system who had never heard of it before. So that was me, like, giving back. But have you ever ran a game that you've never played? Have you ever ran a game that you've never never cats are freaking me out here. Basically, have you ever done this? Have you ever ran a game that you've never played, or have you ever ran a game that you've you just read the book and you said, this is cool, I want to run this for my players, for my group, for my friends? And how did it turn out for you? Did you get some egg on your face, or did it actually come out pretty good? Were you able to pull it off? Maybe you had some regrets of not reading up on the rules as much as you could have. Normally, I'm pretty good. Normally, when I run a game for the first time, it works out pretty well. There's always a case or two where I forget a certain rule, and I might have to, fix it after the fact. But for the most part, it does pretty well. All right, guys. We'll hopefully have some more reviews in the near future. I've kind of been having a hard time getting all my time together and organizing myself, and I've been kind of lazy lately. I kind of blame that on Netflix, I think. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.